Thanks, Mike. Okay, I think we're live now.
Yep, we are live, Chair Cote, so you can go ahead when you like.
Okay, we're good to go. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call to order our Mayor's Council meeting. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded and traditional territories of the Hakamini, Semiahmoo, and Squamish-speaking people. These refer to the language groups that more widely encompass the Indigenous people of many nations who used and continue to use the land whose territory Translink's works, operates, and serves. I would also like to begin the meeting by welcoming a new member to the Mayor's Council. I'd like to congratulate and welcome Mayor Jamie Ross from the village of Belcarra. I know you've had an opportunity to attend some of our subcommittees, but welcome to your first Mayor's Council meeting and welcome to the Mayor's Council. I also want to make a note. This week is the last week of the Vice President of Engineering, Sani Zine. I think many folks around the table have had many opportunities over the years to work with Sani, and wish him the best of luck in his next path in his career. But we've really appreciated all the work and dedication that you've contributed to Translink all these years. I remember I first met you way back in a filled room in Sapperton with a charged residential crowd on a particular issue, but have really appreciated the opportunities to engage. And I know many folks around the table know the work that you've contributed to Translink and to the region. So thank you very much for all your service at Translink.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So I just want to confirm, Carol, that you've been able to take attendance for this morning's meeting.
Carol, I think
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. With that, I will look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. And we'll move on to item 1.2, the approval of our minutes from the January 28th meeting.
Move adoption.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, moving on to public delegates. We have one public delegate this morning, so I'd like to welcome Joe Kunstler, and maybe Mike, if you could help coordinate getting Joe online.
Okay,
Good
Joe,
morning.
I think you're online, and can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can perfectly.
We can. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having me this morning. I am going to be incredibly quick because I got like 3 projects I want to talk about. The first is I just want to lend my voice to, again, wholeheartedly endorse Sarah Ross and her work on bus lanes. I think it's important we prioritize moving people, not cars. That doesn't mean I support any toll walls. It just means I support moving people, not cars. And I also support moving freight. Second, I recently was at a virtual MLA Katrina Chin event on the Translink Gondola, and I have to say, at the event I was a bit nervous because I heard a lot of NIMBYs, or not in my backyard people, platformed. However, Minister Chin did send me and others a letter from one of the Translink staff explaining that the Burnaby Gondola is there to meet growing needs for growing capacity, and I hope that folks will make a transit decision based on a region and not NIMBYs, and I want to endorse that project. I do not know how much time I have left, so I will try to be brief, but I understand that my good friend Minister Ma has called for everyone to fully support a women's shelter in her riding. However, I was at a virtual meeting on that, basically a briefing on, the needs and all. And I understand the world championship, national championship, provincial championship, and Translink planning staff was not consulted on this women's shelter, and that there's going to be an increased transit demand. And to be consistent, as I called in a few months ago, saying that the mobility pricing may have impacts on Translink, and that needs to be studied right away. I would also be consistent and say that whenever a project has, transit impacts, that be studied as par for the course, because we shouldn't be focusing on studying impacts on roads. You should be studying impacts on mobility and moving people. And I fully support the housing shelter, by the way, and not just because Mr. Ma called me to act, is asking her fans to act on the 2nd of March at the North Vancouver District hearing, but because I think it's important that we treat women with dignity and respect. I think it's important that we be very careful about naming tall walls after political women and then having things happen that shouldn't have happened. So I withdraw those comments last December in front of Councillor Doyle. And finally, I just want to say I'm very excited about the bus lane presentation today. I'm happy that we're talking about moving people, not cars. So thank you for letting me give my delegation. I hope I was succinct and pithy.
Thank you very much, Joe. You covered a lot of ground, and do continue to stay tuned because we do have a presentation from Sarah Ross on the bus priority later in the meeting. So thank you for joining us. Okay, we're going to move along on our agenda. Item number 3, which is report from Translink management, and I'm going to pass it off to our interim Translink CEO, Gigi Chenko. Please, Gigi, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Cote. Good morning, members of the Mayor's Council. I'm pleased to deliver my first management report today as interim CEO. And I'd like to briefly touch on a few topics. First of all, the federal funding announcement, a few capital projects that benefit our customers, and lastly, our 1 million masks initiative. So with respect to federal funding, earlier this month, we received some very welcome news for our transit industry. Prime Minister Trudeau announced plans for the federal government to invest an additional $14.9 billion in public transportation projects over the next 8 years. The funding will include $5.9 billion in short-term funding to be dispersed starting this year, and the balance will be used to create a permanent transit fund of $3 billion per year from 2026 onward. And we expect to learn more details in the coming weeks about how this funding will be allocated. This is great news because having predictable, stable long-term funding helps ensure we can continue to deliver exceptional transit service and plan for our major capital projects. And it will also support regional growth, reduce pollution, and reinvigorate our economy. I'd like to thank the Mayor's Council staff, and Translink staff for working with the federal government on the need for this important investment in transit. Next slide, please. In terms of the capital projects I'd like to briefly touch on today, the first one is the Expo line escalator replacement project. Investments in escalator replacement is very important for continued operation and seamless passenger flow at stations, and are also particularly crucial for passengers with mobility challenges. When my mother used to take Skytrain to her medical appointments, she wasn't able to navigate the stairs at the station, so I know how important escalators are for a large segment of our customers. The replacement work has progressed faster than we anticipated during the pandemic, and the overall project scope is to replace 37 escalators at 13 Skytrain stations along Expo line and the West Coast Express stations. And as of January of this year, 14 out of the 37 have been replaced, and we're on schedule to be fully complete in 2023. The second project I'd like to touch on is the Skytrain Customer Communications Upgrade Program, which includes 280 new customer information displays, an upgraded public address system, replacing nearly 1,000 speakers and adding over 300 new ones, and also new CCTV cameras at all Expo and Millennium Line stations. Now, these upgrades will help provide customers with better real-time information and enhance safe operation of our Skytrain system. Now, this past fall, we completed all of the stations along the Millennium Line, and we expect to complete the remaining Expo Line ones this spring. Thirdly, I'd like to touch on the Expo Line rail and rail pad replacement system. So this project replaces aging Skytrain tracks on the Expo Line, which we're approaching one segment at a time, which of course helps prevent unexpected service disruptions and also reduces track noise from Skytrain operations, which we've heard from the public is of concern to those who neighbor our stations and track. The new track and pads will also contribute to a smoother and quieter ride for our customers. And this spring, we will complete replacement of the Skytrain track between the 22nd Street and New Westminster stations, which has about 10,000 meters of rail and 17,000 rail pads. And lastly, I'd like to talk about the new Capstan station on the Canada Line, which is being undertaken in partnership with the City of Richmond. The new station will provide safe, efficient, and sustainable transportation option for the Capstan Village area. And I want to thank very much the City of Richmond for being instrumental in bringing this project to fruition. The construction on the station will begin later this year. Next slide, please. In terms of our support for community initiatives, I'm happy to announce the 1 million mask initiative, which is being undertaken by Translink along with Deloitte, YVR, BC Ferries, BCAA, and BC Transit. All of these agencies came together to form an important partnership, and the goal is to distribute 1 million face masks to our community service providers and others in need in BC to support safe, essential travel. Last August, we introduced mandatory mask policy on our system, and as well, the provincial government mandated face coverings in all public places. And I think this past year has demonstrated the importance of wearing masks in public places. And our latest numbers indicate around 95% of our customers wear masks on our system. But we do recognize there are those in the community who don't have ready access to clean face masks. And so we joined this initiative spearheaded by Deloitte to encourage mask use so that we can welcome more of our customers safely back on board. The delivery of the masks will occur through United Way Lower Mainland, which is one of our partners with our employee annual giving campaign. And distribution happens through 100 local agencies in 23 BC communities. And the focus of the distribution will be children, young families, seniors, and people experiencing homelessness. And I think this partnership continues our ongoing commitment to support the communities in which we serve through collaboration with regional stakeholders. With that, I conclude my Translink management report, and I'm happy to address any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update in the report, Gigi. I'll now open up to members of the Mayor's Council if there's any questions or comments related to the management report. Not seeing any hands. If I can get a motion just to receive the report.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Okay, we're now going to move on to item 4.1 on our agenda, which is an update on the bus priority program. And I'd like to invite Sarah Ross to present to this item.
Thank you very much, Mayor Cote, and good morning, members of the Mayor's Council. So the purpose of this report is to provide a further update to the Mayor's Council on the implementation status of the quick wins identified in the bus priority rapid response assessment that we did in July 2020. And then and it's also following up on the report we provided at the October meeting of the Mayor's Council meeting. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Translink and the municipalities are making really good progress implementing these projects that are aimed at improving bus travel times around the region, while also making sure that also making sure on the good flow of the overall flow of traffic during the pandemic. And improving bus travel times for people who take the bus is a really important step to rebuilding transit ridership, while also, making the very best use of the resources, the financial resources we have because the less time buses are stuck in traffic, then that decreases the costs associated with providing that bus service. So we've implemented 12 projects since July 2020. And we've got, so actually there's a typo in the slide, so my mistake, that should be 4 projects were done in the summer, and then another 8 projects were done in the fall, winter. And we've got 9 more projects that we're actively working on coming in 2021. So there is the map there with the color coding shows you the status. So we've done about 18 kilometers of bus priority lanes. We've been installing bus bulbs. And I've got a picture coming up that'll show you what that is. But in Vancouver, in New Westminster, in North Vancouver, an example of how bus bulbs can help is on and reduce travel times is on Robson Street. We have had a decrease in the amount of time it takes to take the bus on Robson Street by 13%, thanks to those bus bulbs that have been put in. We've been making tactical changes, which refer to turn restrictions, turn approaches, bus approach lanes, traffic signal adjustments. As well. We're doing those in Vancouver and Burnaby and in Surrey. We've added, for example, a left turn signal was added at Scott Road and 84th, which helps get the bus through that intersection and actually can save like 2 minutes, which is a pretty big chunk of time. We recently completed a bus stop balancing project on the route number 2, which is along the McDonald corridor and into downtown in Vancouver. Bus stop balancing is making sure that we want to have buses not too far apart, but also not too close together. And we have guidelines that on about how far apart bus stops should be. You certainly need to take into account the needs of all users, particularly seniors and people with disabilities. On the number 2 route, we had many bus stops that were closer than 200 meters. Some of them were even closer than 100 meters. And so if your bus is stopping that frequently, it really adds a lot of travel time. So we were able to go through and remove some bus stops and save a total of 4 minutes of travel time on that route. So that is really promising. So we'll be continuing to do some more bus stop balancing in this year, now looking at routes 17 and 25. And again, well over 90% of customers who use these routes will keep using their exact same bus stop, and they'll benefit from a faster travel time. And then we look very carefully where we've removed bus stops. Some people will have to walk a little bit longer, but we've done making sure that that's not impacting people with seniors or people with disabilities. So being really careful about that, finding that right balance. So we're excited about the projects that we've got coming up, particularly more bus priority lanes, more bus bulbs happening, tactical changes, looking at the Scott Road corridor as we also do the rapid bus planning and design work for the Scott Road corridor, getting some things, changes, early win changes out. We can go to the next slide, please. So here's some photos. You'll see here that that's a photo on Lonsdale of a bus bulb. And you can see how this is such a great, a triple win we like to see, because it creates more sidewalk space by moving out the bus stop. This is a temporary treatment that has been done here. It means that it's faster for the bus because it's not having to pull in and out of traffic. And also can add more parking space because the bus doesn't need as much curb space, because you don't have to have that space for it to move in and out. It just can come up and stop. And this is some other photos of some bus priority lanes. We've been working and continuing to work with municipalities and with local businesses to make sure that these things that we're doing have no negative effect on local businesses. We know we are very aware of the challenges facing local business during this time. We very much are supportive, and it's vibrant local high streets is very supportive of transit as well. And so we're very mindful in working with municipal staff and local businesses on that. And as I mentioned about bus bulbs, these are that's kind of that triple win that really can help local businesses as well. And if you can move to the last slide. So there are many more opportunities, of course, including some that can be delivered quickly and at low cost. And we have to work with municipalities and to deliver these. And we do have a really unique opportunity to really rethink how our road space is used and find ways to make our roads work better for everyone. We have funding available, we identify projects, and also while we have focused on this, on the quick wins that we've been doing, we also continue to work on planning and design for our next 2 rapid bus corridors. So that will be the R6 on Scott Road, the R7 connecting Richmond to Expo line, and continuing to look at the rapid bus lines that are already out and running and look for opportunities to continue to improve those and have those be very great customer experience for all of our customers. So with that, joining me today also is Dan Freeman, who's the Senior Manager of Bus Priority Programs, and Dan and I are happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. So we'll open it up. Mayor West.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah, for the presentation. I just want to voice my support for this work. I think it's really important and foundational work for Translink, especially at this time when we're trying to come back and rebuild ridership. And so I really see this as foundational to getting Translink and the regional transportation system into a good place. I get the feeling that we're just scratching the surface on what we can achieve by investing in this type of work. And so I'm really interested in what would be achievable if we were to allocate more funding in this area. And obviously we'll have those discussions at the appropriate time. But I can't help but observe that, at a time when we're struggling to come up with the funding for very large capital programs. This is one of those things that for a very modest investment, you get a very high return. And I would like to see us be able to do more of these projects throughout the entire region, because I think there are many areas in Metro Vancouver, especially further out into our suburbs, that would really benefit from this type of investment. So thank you for the work you're doing, and let's do more.
Okay, thank you, Mayor West. Mayor Buchanan.
Thank you very much. And I would echo all those comments that Mayor West just said. And just a comment, Ms. Ross, and just because I know as we're looking to operationally make these ways more efficient, you mentioned in just the Lonsdale example that they're temporary. And so I'm just curious, at what point do we decide that, what are we looking for to make sure that they're not going to just be temporary, that we're going to actually make them permanent and actually embed them into the kind of street that we're trying to create to support people and the businesses, and really try to reduce actually the amount of single occupancy vehicles moving through those thoroughfares so that the bus can move much more efficiently.
Thank you very much for the question. One of the advantages of a temporary treatment is you can get it out quicker. And then it also allows you to monitor and assess what the overall impacts on the corridor are. So we will work with municipalities and make sure that that we're monitoring what the benefit is to transit, but also looking at the overall impact and make sure the corridor continues to function properly. And then we certainly also have funding available to be able to have this converted into a more permanent, converted into something permanent. And some of that just depends on what when the right time for the construction would be with the municipality as well.
So, sorry, Chair, can I just do a follow-up?
Yep, please continue.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm just curious in terms of the metrics that you're using in timing, because I know, there might be stretches of some of these networks where it slows a bit, but they can make up time in other parts. So in terms of the metrics, and I believe I've asked this previously, in terms of what are we looking for to really make sure that, because I think given the pandemic and some of the treatments we personally have done in local government to our streets to support people, these are things we really actually want to maintain moving forward. And so, recognizing that some of them are along a major route, a major road network, but want to make sure that we can, look at a metric that might need to be somewhat adjusted, as long as we, can make up some time, although it might not be the perfect amount of time, but the outcomes that we're looking for are far greater than perhaps having the bus slow. And I'm not talking for minutes, lots of minutes, but if it's, what is that metric that we're looking for? And are we looking at potentially adjusting that slightly?
Dan, do you want to speak a little bit in more detail about the analytics we do and the metrics that are most key?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So thanks for the question, Mayor Buchanan, and I guess just want to clarify a couple things and speak to the question. We look in great detail at the speed and reliability of service and the number of passengers affected all along a corridor and a route, and identify opportunities for making that better for customers, and look through Translink's funding program to make some of those improvements. So we have a whole suite of speed, reliability, and passenger delay measures weighted by the number of passengers on the service, and also people upstream, or downstream. So we want to make sure that thinking about the people who aren't on the bus yet, but who are waiting for that bus block or further down the line, and that helps to assess the competitiveness. There's at this point limited regional funding. We're really pleased to see an increasing uptick in the funding program that's grown from 2 million to 4 million a year, and we'll go to 5 million next year. And the program has 2021 so far is oversubscribed, so we're looking to fund the projects in the region that have the most bang for the regional dollars, and that's kind of where it's not a one line. It's really we try to put the money in the place where we can find the best returns and work with the cities who are willing to move most quickly. And as for the specific temporary nature, really some of that's very much a local decision. In some cases, we're happy to go straight to a permanent solution if there's strong support from the city to do that, and the funding programs allow for that. What's nice about these funding programs is, and we've seen this year with cities across the region, is an ability to move quickly with low-cost temporary materials to try things out, to see how it works, to see what the public reaction is, to find room to adjust, to say, hey, maybe we didn't quite get this perfectly, and then we can refine the design and then make it permanent. I think the bus bulbs constructed on Lonsdale and Robson Street and other places with temporary materials, likely, I think we're waiting to see how long those could last, but they're not, the materials, they're cheap, and so they maybe last a few seasons depending on the weather, and then we'd expect they'd need to be replaced, removed, or something more permanent put in place, and the funding certainly allows for that.
Okay, well, I would just say that, again, I would echo my colleagues' comments that certainly from my perspective, these are something that we need to continue and look to making them as permanent as possible, and really take this opportunity to change our networks so that they are more people focused, they support the local economy, and they also are supporting moving people through public transit. And so the more that we can work with you, and I know our staff are working from my city, working with you, and we're fully supportive of them. So great work, and please keep it up.
Great. No, we welcome applications from for more permanent projects from all cities, and we're really like hearing that enthusiasm. It really helps us as staff.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Buchanan. Mayor Hurley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to thank Sarah and her team for the work being done on these projects. I like those who spoke before me, believe that this is probably a more realistic way of making great change within our transit system for more ridership. And I think we need to put more focus on these projects. And I too would like to see a much larger investment in these types of projects, because I think it will benefit the region in a much greater way. And you know, the mega projects come and go once every 10 years, once every 15 years. But really, this is the bread and butter of our system. And I think we need to really focus and support Sarah in the work that she's doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hurley. Mayor Dingwall.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And like my colleagues, I'm a real strong proponent of investment in buses, which is not only our core business, but core business throughout the world. It addresses the return on investment. It deals with some of the regional affordability issues. And for me, if we do it now and build it now before other development limits opportunities, then that's smart investment. And we can build it into OCPs around Metro Vancouver. The second thing that actually coincides with this, and I know Translink is advocating this, and that's around that fleet electrification. And so the two go hand in glove as far as I'm concerned, and it deals with Translink advancing environmental leadership at a time when it's critical. And so the final thing I'd say is, again, I believe this is absolutely critical for any organization that's keeping all of our assets in the state of good repair. And I know we're looking to invest in that. That makes perfect sense. And so again, Director West started it off. I agree 1,000% with him. And then my fellow directors that spoke afterwards, you know, I think this is where we need to be investing.
Thank you, Mayor Dingwall. Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to start off by thanking Sarah and her team, Daniel and others for the work they've done. And I certainly would agree with my colleagues. So I'll keep my comments specific. I actually 100% agree with the content and those pragmatic approaches. But I'd also like to thank staff for when they talked about the bus stop balancing, talking about working with people with mobility challenges, seniors and disabilities. I think when we approach projects with that lens, it is very helpful in not only helping people now, but building capacity as we go. And in particular, when you're talking about the bulbs, talking with businesses, I think that's part of our recovery moving forward. So thank you very much for that process of including people. Sarah, to you and your team.
Well, thank you, Mayor Ross. Mayor Morden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't reiterate all the comments, but support those of my colleagues here. Just want to acknowledge the fact that this program has actually been in effect for some time with respect to the funding envelope that's been provided for these kind of programs to increase efficiency and reduce congestion at some of these pinch points. With scarce financial resources during the current pandemic, financial efficiency is even more critical than before, the words of Ms. Ross. So I just want to acknowledge those are important. And I think that we should be looking at much more opportunity here as we build out our bus system, which I fully support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Morden, and really appreciate the report and the work that the Translink staff have been doing on this on this file. As I think you can tell by all the comments around the table, I think there is a strong interest and strong support for us to continue to do this important work. You know, I think sometimes we do find at these tables we tend to focus on some of the larger big projects, and those are important projects for our region. But bus priority has to integrate with that. I think the reality is the majority of our transit users are bus users, and even those that use our more rapid lines, most of those actually get to those rapid lines by taking a bus, and it's really an integrated system. And no doubt, reducing 2 minutes travel time on a bus route is not going to make the front page of the paper, but I think if we can find cost-effective ways to find those efficiencies and improvements in our bus system all across the region, that's what really is going to make our transit system a success. You know, I think as we come out of COVID-19. And, we really are in a position where we have to win back the hearts and minds of our customers and our riders as well, too. And I think these kind of initiatives that people can see improvements on their local bus routes is going to be part of the work we're going to have to do to, when the time is right and people feel safe and we move out of the pandemic, to really encourage people back onto our transit system. Particularly encouraged to see even the work about some of our rapid bus lines. I think I'm thinking of the Scott Road Station, where we're using this work as a bit of a prelude to kind of get that work going as well too. It's been interesting to even hear reports about how the Scott Road corridor has actually been one of the fastest to come back with the pandemic, and I think all the more reason to kind of start taking those steps towards getting to us on those important corridors. So I really appreciate the work staff is doing, and hopefully you definitely hear from the Mayor's Council strong support for us to continue to engage and push this work forward. So I'll leave it to Sarah or Jeff Cross if there's any final concluding remarks.
I would just say thank you very much. I definitely appreciate your support. I'd like to also express our thanks to the staff at all of your municipalities for their work with us. This is absolutely a partnership, and that we need to work really closely with you. So very much appreciate that. And absolutely, I really want to totally agree. I think it was Mayor Dingwall said, this is absolutely the bread and butter of the system. Fairly low levels of investment, capital investment up front can achieve real benefits for customers and save those in operating costs within just a couple of years in some situations. So thank you very much for your support.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So this was a report for information to the Mayor's Council. If I get a motion to receive.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, moving on to item 4.2, the update on Translink tomorrow. I'm going to pass it off to Andrew McCurran to provide a brief presentation to the Mayor's Council.
Thanks, Chair Cote. And I'm just going to refer to the report that was in the agenda package and just give you a few highlights on this program. Just as context for especially the new folks on the Mayor's Council, we established this program in the 10-year vision. The last Mayor's Council established it in the 10-year vision and funded it in the phase 1 and phase 2 investment plans. As Dan and Sarah were just describing in that last presentation, we're really trying to take a more nimble approach to piloting and experimenting on all sorts of things across the enterprise, including bus priority. The focus of this program in particular, the New Mobility Program, which we branded under the banner of Translink Tomorrow, is really focused on prototyping and piloting around new technologies and new business models, really in recognition of the rapid pace of change out there in the transportation landscape today. So we have scaled back the program as a result of COVID financial challenges, but we'd like to update you this morning just on a few of the key initiatives that we still do have underway. I'll start with the Open Innovation Call, which is really our main avenue through this program to develop new ideas and partnerships. For each call, Translink issues a challenge statement and solicits proposals that respond to that challenge. We've been doing about one per year. We've been finding it's really a cost-effective way for us to conduct market scans on a key sort of area that we don't have a lot of experience with, and then more nimbly experiment with new ideas and develop new partnerships. So the 2020 call, which just closed in the fall, focused on ideas to help improve health, safety, and public trust to transit customers as we welcome the public back to transit in the context of COVID-19. We actually have a couple promising, exciting partnerships under development right now, just still in discussion. So we'll have more updates on that one for you in the coming months. The 2019 call focused on improving customer experience at transit stops and stations. And there were two key partnerships that came out of that call. The Pigeon Box that you might have seen around a number of Skytrain stations, where people can order packages or have goods delivery through any e-commerce sites delivered to those lockers at Skytrain stations. The project is going well, but logistically, we've been learning a lot. Obviously, COVID has reduced the usage, but we'll have more results to share with you publicly shortly on that too. The Umber City project or pilot was the other one. We temporarily paused this idea of umbrella share at Skytrain stations as a result of public health concerns, but we do hope to pursue that partnership in the future. The 2018 call, which was our first call, focused on how public and private transportation services can work together to really give the traveling public, the customer, a more seamless multimodal travel experience where you can, with one card or one app, easily plan, book, pay, and access vehicles for any transportation service out there. So the successful partnership that we developed out of that call was a joint initiative with Evo Car Share, Mobi by Shago, and Moto Car Share Cooperative, and Translink. All 4 services worked to develop a prototype shared mobility compass card, which we rolled out over the last year and a half or so, went through development and then testing with a small number of employees at a handful of local businesses, just to sort of test the project, make sure that we could make it work in the back end. And we had very promising results. We found that it was not only feasible, but also quite popular with the users. So we're currently working on scaling this up to a larger pilot. We're aiming to have it available to a select number of members of the public, ideally by the end of this year. And then the potential of scaling that to become a regular offering moving forward. Finally, the last one I'd like to touch on is van pooling. And that's something we've also been experimenting with for some time. We've been now running a successful prototype. We've been calling it really at UBC, a small number of vans, 10 vans. Took a bit of a dip in ridership during the pandemic, but are actually all now fully being used again, focusing with maintenance workers at UBC. So we've got that, we've confirmed that there's a useful product that people are interested in, and we're now also in the process of scaling that to a larger pilot. We're looking by the end of this year to have in the range of 50 to 60 vans potentially available, and focusing on industrial parks that are currently poorly served by conventional transit. So with all of these things, the van pool in particular, which is potentially the most advanced, any of them that are deemed promising would come back to the Mayor's Council and board in the context of an investment plan if we wanted to move it forward for fuller funding and turning it into a larger program. Thanks, Chair. I'll turn it back to you and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, for that update. We'll open up to the mayors. Mayor Buchanan.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Andrew, for that update. I think these 2 pilots are absolutely outstanding. I think anything we can do to make it easier for customers to move between modes is on their trip is excellent. I'm just curious how you'd be choosing, looking at where to pilot these moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks, Mayor Buchanan. The 2 that are the most advanced, so the shared mobility compass card is something we're looking to recruit about 1,000 members of the public. Ideally, because of the partners involved, they all have a more limited geographic coverage than the Translink system, which covers all of Metro Vancouver. Evo covers sort of more of the central part of the region, and Mobi has a more limited coverage area as well. So we will be looking for people, they don't necessarily need to live in those areas, but that at least travel through those areas on a semi-regular basis. And so it'll be an open call. And so we're looking for people who meet those sort of travel profile, but then also trying to get a good cross-section that's a representative of all of the traveling public in the region. So that's where we're going to try to cast a wide net and look for you to help us recruit large numbers of folks, and then try to whittle that down to a representative sample of the public. And then for the van pool pilot, our Travel Smart team is actively working with industrial parks around the region. We have a couple that are the most sort of advanced discussions, and really those are areas that where conventional transit service is poor today, but where there are actually large numbers of employees, and so we can come back with some more detail there. But there are 3 or 4 industrial parks in particular that we're looking at that are promising. We'd like to find places where there's potentially some infrastructure in place as well, with travel demand management coordinators who can help us facilitate matching.
Okay. I just, again, I think these are outstanding. I just, one, in terms of the van pooling, I think just speaking for the North Shore, I think C-SPAN would be a great partner. I think they've been running their own shuttle for their employees for many years. So I think they would be somebody keen to participate. The other is just, is there the potential to add so the city or the North Shore is looking at an electric bike share. Is it potential that you can add different operators other than the ones that you've listed?
Yeah, absolutely. The intent is to, our goal is actually to avoid kind of the idea of walled gardens and to make these sorts of things open to any mobility operator. And so I think our sense right now is in this next phase that we would likely just keep it to the operators we've got involved, because of the technical back office sort of coordination is more challenging the more we add. But our hope is that once we've got a product and a core piece of infrastructure in place, that we can open it up to all mobility providers. So that would be a great next addition. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. This is really exciting to see. Thanks for your work.
Thank you, Mayor Buchanan. Mayor Walker.
Thank you very much, Chair Cote, and Andrew, thank you for the report. I echo Mayor Buchanan. This is exciting. It's innovative. It's the type of stuff we should do. It gives us an opportunity really to tap back into the last piece that we were looking at, and that's bus priorities and what the ridership thinks those priorities might be. My question is kind of twofold. Under the open innovation call, participation is open to individuals, and there's a number of others there. Academics are the last. I wonder if it's going to be open to ridership, that is those that are riding the bus systems, so that we can get a better idea what they think, maybe some better innovative ideas. Also, beyond academics, the post-secondary education system, are there courses and classes at SFU, UBC, and other places we might want to tap into and see if they have some good ideas? And never forget the kids that ride buses that go to high schools. We should be able to try and bring them into the fold. They may have some wonderful ideas. So that, and then my question is, how will it be advertised, Andrew? How will people know about this so that they'll be able to participate? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Walker. Those are all really good suggestions. And we've got some kind of irons in the fire to varying degrees, but will definitely take those ideas away and figure out how we can reach out to a broader audience as part of both this program and our more general kind of Translink outreach and engagement efforts. Specifically, the open innovation call, to your question, the focus, it is open to anyone. But the idea is, our hope is to receive ideas from folks who have some potential capacity to actually help us implement the ideas. So the focus is really on 3 tiers of pre-commercialized ideas, where we might provide some co-funding for an individual, an entrepreneur, or a startup, or an established company, or an academic or member of the public, but who we think has some capacity to help us actually deliver something, to develop it together. For startups or small companies who've got an idea, maybe they'd like to test, but they don't have the data, or they don't have the ability, the things they need to test it, the vehicles or the assets. We are offering to access to our assets. So maybe use a vehicle or some of our data or a facility to test something out, or some where there are a company or any individual who's got a pilot that's actually ready to scale up at a larger scale. We are willing to partner and fund those ideas as well. So we are trying to run the gamut from very much startup pre-commercialized ideas right up to market ready. But the focus of the open innovation call is a bit more on folks who are actually able to help us implement and deliver an idea. So we do need other channels, like you suggested, for members of the public more generally, academics and students, to make sure that we're reaching out to them. We have been participating in a number of hackathons, and with the idea of some idea contests and that kind of thing for schools. So we'll definitely take that away, and it's a great idea, Mayor Walker.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So this was a report for information. If I can get a motion to receive.
So moved.
Been moved. Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, moving on to item 5.1, the Surrey Langley Skytrain, and I'm going to pass it off to Jeff Cross to provide us an oral update on this project.
Thank you, Chair Cote and members of the Mayor's Council. Most of the content will be delivered by Sarah Ross, part of 5B. But just as a quick update on sort of the status of the project, As you're aware, the provincial government's commitment to deliver this project all the way to Langley as part of their election campaign was very welcomed by the region. We've been working very closely with provincial staff to pass along all of the business case information and study work that we've been doing on the entire corridor. Obviously, we had a business case ready and submitted for the first stage to Fleetwood, and we had done preliminary work all the way to Langley. We've now been sharing that information so they're aware of the status and can start contemplating how that they would deliver that project as the construction lead on it, just like they are for Broadway. Eventually, it would be turned back to us to operate, just like Broadway will be another, and Evergreen Extension was, etc. So we're working in those regards to kind of understand what their path may be. One of the key outstanding questions, even when the Premier made that commitment during the election, was going to the federal government for funding. While we had funding secured for that first stage for the maximum amount, there were still unfulfilled elements for the federal government to top up to get all the way to Langley. I believe we are probably the only province and only region within Canada that has basically allocated all of our federal infrastructure funding, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. And as such, we were going to require new funding programs, we being the region and the province, in order to deliver that. The federal announcements a couple of weeks ago obviously improved the prospects for that, both the ongoing permanent transit fund that would start in 2026, as well as the stimulus funding that was announced, which appears to be application-based, but we're waiting for the rules on that, give several different paths for the province to work with us and with the federal government to deliver that. Finally, that was part of our memo of understanding with the province as it relates to recovering from COVID and safe restart, is to figure out what the path would be for Surrey Langley Skytrain. So we'll keep you apprised of how those conversations go and how the province prepares to think about delivering that project in a timely manner. Knowing that we will be the operator of the project and that we obviously have a lot at stake, the Mayor's Council back in 2014, as part of the Mayor's vision, directed Translink staff and through the board to develop partnership agreements for all of these major projects. So that is something that we will be preparing for the entire agreement. And maybe I'll pass it off, Chair, to Sarah Ross to go through that part, and then we can take questions on the whole project at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so as Jeff noted, the Mayor's vision calls for project partnership agreements, and that's required regardless of who is the deliverer of the infrastructure. One key, there's several different agreements that obviously get put together on a project like this. One of the agreements is what we refer to as the supportive policy agreement, and that is, it addresses the things that are necessary for the realization of the objectives that get set out in the business case. So the transportation, the financial, the city building objectives, and that rely on host municipalities putting in place conditions for success. And so the scope of these relates to land use planning, housing policy, urban design, parking, transportation demand management, transit priority, active transportation. So those things that are outside the direct scope of a major project, but have significant influence over the overall success in achieving the objectives. And so we have, about a year ago, the Mayor's Council and the Translink Board endorsed a supportive policies agreement with the City of Surrey for the portion of the Surrey Langley Skytrain project that's located within the City of Surrey. So that is in place already. And so now we will be beginning the work to work closely with both the city and the township of Langley to develop supportive policy agreements for those between Translink and those municipalities to accompany when the submission of the business case for the overall project is completed on all the supportive work that would the Translink and the municipality will commit to doing to support the overall objectives of the project. Happy to take any questions on that. Jeff, you're on mute.
Okay, well, I'll open it up to any members of the Mayor's Council if there are any questions or comments. Not seeing, Mayor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. And I suppose I probably should know this, but it's something that's kind of confused me almost since the provincial election. We were in the process of doing the Surrey to Langley Skytrain and working through different levels of government for funding. And then suddenly the province came along and indicated that they would fund the entire project through to Langley. So they'll do it. My question is, at what point do they take over, and what funds are being provided by the provincial government as opposed to funds that were part of Translink before or that we expected from the federal government? In other words, how does this impact kind of our bottom line when it comes to doing things? Does the province just pick it up from the point that they made the pronouncement or the promise, and everything before that is funded by ourselves or whatever funds we could get? Or what does that actually look like?
That's a very good question, Mayor Walker, and we're still working through that. We don't have answers to all of those things. So we have been doing work since we submitted the business case, including sort of environmental reviews and consultation, design, et cetera, that probably were at the expense of Translink. At a certain point, we would transfer the project, hopefully in coming months, and they would start assuming the costs of developing that and delivering both the work that we've done for stage one and then what needs to happen to be ready to go all the way to Langley. And so that's part of the agreements that will come up. It also fits into the conversations in regards to developing the next investment plan and just general sort of recovery from COVID. I will qualify or maybe clarify a bit the statement you say about the provincial government taking over the funding. They've said, obviously, they want to take this project on to relieve the funding burden of the region. We have yet to kind of finalize exactly what the terms of that would be, nor have they got sort of full alignment yet or decided exactly how to take that on. One of the key pieces that I pointed to earlier was their desire to maximize the federal funding into this program. To your question on that, for the first stage, which was about $1.6 billion, we had assumed the sort of maximum share, about 40% of eligible from the federal government. That would stay with that project. Now with the new announcements, they would be looking for at least 40%, potentially even more, depending upon the stimulus funding rules for the remaining part. And that would be in the hands of the provincial government to really work with that, but closely with us so we know what's available to the region. So those are things that will happen in coming weeks and months, and then we'll be able to report back to you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Walker, and appreciate the update from staff on this project. I think this is long been identified as a priority project, expanding rapid transit south of the Fraser River there. And I think we saw the business case last year, which I think was really strong towards this project. We have faced some challenges with the financial sustainability of Translink because of COVID-19, but it does appear that the stars appear to be aligning with both the provincial and federal government to get this project back on track. We've got a lot of work to do to iron out the details, as Jeff mentioned there, but at this point it's looking really promising with the alignments with all the levels of government on that, and appreciate the update. And no doubt this will be something that will be coming back to the Mayor's Council quite frequently over the next little while. So with that, if I can get a motion to receive this report. It's been moved and seconded.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, that brings us to the end of our open meeting. Our next public Mayor's Council meeting is on April 1st. If we can get a motion to adjourn the meeting, and then we'll take a 5-minute break before we start our in-camera meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We will see everyone back here.